Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I'm coming to you live from Florida. And if you're new to my content, I love to help people reach their inner potential. I do that through helping people heal physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and feel better, of course. I run 2 international businesses, and I do this book club every single Monday because I want to create a community of like minds, a community of like-minded people that are looking to become more, looking to grow, looking to expand. And we are kicking off the new year with a new book. So we are doing The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And this is a book that I got into, nearly 5 years ago. I always have to laugh because I have this picture. I've got to dig it up and find it. My dog, Bodhi, was a puppy when I was reading this book. And when I finished it, I kind of left it next to the bed, and Bodhi took it on himself to do his version of reading, and he ate it. So I have a picture of this book all chewed up on Bodhi's bed. So I haven't been able to revisit it. And after the book club we did last year, we did some of Wayne Dyer's work, we did some of Eckhart Tolle's work, and Michael Singer, I think, beautifully articulates some of the same points that those authors do, but with, I think, a sense of humor and a little bit more clarity sometimes, practical spirituality, I call it. So if you guys are joining me live, let me know when you get here. There you are. Hey, Charlotte. I am over here on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. So whichever platform you're on, just let me know that you're here. And I would love to hear, how it's been. It's been a minute since we've talked. My hair has grown a ton since the last time we had book club. It's been, a month and a half. I don't know. The holidays happened. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. Hey there, Stacy. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, Amanda. I hope everyone has gotten their book. I don't know about you, but I have written all over it. So I was going back through all right, what do we want to talk about today? And it's almost every paragraph has lines in it. But for those that maybe don't have the book and you're just joining on here, I want to read some of the praise of The Untethered Soul. Deepak Chopra said, he says, read this book carefully and you will get more than a glimpse of eternity. And it's true. It's just the truth, the simple truth. Another one said, the essence of the great spiritual teachings of the ages is encapsulated here. It's the clearest statement I know of who we are and what we face in our emerging humanity, right? We talk a lot about this. He talks a lot about the mind chatter in the head. Marie says there's no sound. Let's see. It might just be you. Try the volume on your computer. It looks like we're good. Please, other people, let me know if we're good. But I think we're good with sound. It's all working on my end. It appears to be anyway. Also, I thought it was really fun. The last tribute in here was Yogi Amrit Desai, and that's my neighbor. So many of you have heard me talk about the teachings that I've studied for the last 8 years and what I teach in my Inner Management Mastery program. It's all that lineage of teaching. And Yogi Amrit Desai and Michael Singer are really good friends. That's actually how I learned about Michael's work. And we call him Mickey. So Mickey Singer lives about an hour from me. So I've actually been to the Temple of the Universe a couple of times. And it's a beautiful space. Yeah, he's an incredible soul. And I did hear, though, that recently he fell. So just send some healing love to him because it sounds like he's in recovery mode right now. All right, so let's dive in, shall we? Okay, so Marie has jumped over to Instagram and it's working over there for her. Perfect. Whatever you need to do, I'm glad you problem solved. Glad you got there. So he kicked off the book with this fun quote. He says, look, it's a Shakespeare quote. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Basically, the quote, right, is saying to maintain honest relationships with other people, you have to first be true to yourself. And then Mickey points out, which self? Which self? The self that is there for me when I'm in a bad mood and is just raging in my head, that self? Or is it the self that's there for me when I'm humbled by making a mistake in something? Or is it the self that's there for me that comes and speaks to me from the dark recesses of my heart when I'm having a bad day, when I'm depressed, when I'm upset? Or is it the one that's there in the fleeting moments of perfect light happiness? Which self? And that kind of tees up the whole conversation that this book is really about. And I love that he really gets to, he says, look, you got to be ready for this conversation. So put a 1 in the chat if you're ready. I assume if you are here, you are ready. But he says, look, if we dare to look past the surface term of self, questions arise that many people would rather not ask. So put a 1 if you're ready to ask them. Ah, nice. Stacy's ready. So he says, are the many aspects of my being all equally part of myself, or is there only one of me? And if so, which, where, how, and why? All right. Hey, Fritz, good to see you. This is really what we're after. And he says, look, in this book, I'm not calling after experts in psychology. Like, this is not a course in like what Freud has to say. We're not going to the great philosophers of our times and ancient times. We're not going to time-honored religious views. We're not surveying people's opinions. He says what we're going to do is direct knowledge, direct experience, and go directly to the expert. And that expert is you. And I am so excited because literally, you've probably felt it. Did you feel it as you're reading where you're like, oh my God, he's talking to me right now. Oh, he knew that I was asking myself that question right now. He's in my head. He has mastered his own mind and therefore understands yours and mine as well. So he said, should you choose to devote yourself to the ongoing journey of self-realization, you will develop a tremendous sense of respect for who you really are. And it is only then that you will come to appreciate the full depth of the meaning in the advice, this above all, to thine own self be true. It is not the voice in your head. Spoiler alert. There is something more. So chapter 1 is called The Voice Inside of Your Head. That voice that is talking right now. So let me ask you this. Put just like a 1 in the chat if you've ever wondered these questions. Have you ever wondered why the voice in your head talks? Like, have you ever stopped and go, like, why is it chatting? Why is it telling me what I'm looking at? Like, I know what I'm looking at. Have you ever wondered this? Have you ever wondered, how does it decide what to say and when to say it? Have you ever been curious about that? How much of what it says turns out to be true? I learned that my mind is wrong a whole lot, okay? Especially when it's going about the future. Aw, thanks for the stars. I appreciate that. Okay. Anyone else find that their mind is wrong? Because mine certainly is not a lot. I hope I'm not the only one. All right. He says, and if right now you are hearing, I don't know what voice you're talking about, I don't have any voice inside of my head, that's the voice we're talking about. So maybe you have been clueless as to what we were talking about up to this point, but that's the voice. All right, Juliet's with me. She's like, yeah, my voice is wrong. It definitely can be wrong. More often than not. So the other thing I want to ask is, have you ever verbalized? I think it was Juliet. You and I did a Mary Morrissey course together, and I think you invited me to it. And I'll never forget the exercise that she had us do, which was to verbalize what we say to ourselves, like out loud. Literally say out loud what the voice is saying internally. It's wicked. Like, I was like, oh, like you would not keep yourself around you. Like, if what someone else said the things that you say to yourself, they would be gone as a friend. You'd cut them off as a family member. Like, no, like, you are wicked to yourself. When you look in the mirror, what do you say? Is it nice? Like, that little voice in there is nasty sometimes. Like, totally unnecessarily nasty. Yeah, Charlotte, Mary is great. She's great. It was Juliet that put me onto her work. And that exercise was incredible. I encourage you to do it this week. Just try. Like, noticing what the voice is saying and then say it out loud. And you'll be like, I'm freaking crazy. I think that Mickey even gets into that. If you were just to see somebody walking around talking to themselves. I remember my parents took me out to visit my uncle. He lives in San Francisco. And I remember, I was younger, still living at home. I don't know if I was middle school or high school, but I will never forget all of the people there that were homeless and were just kind of like around, like muttering to themselves. And, we look at that and, we might judge, we might think, oh my God, they're crazy. We might have these thoughts that come up. But the truth is, they're just verbalizing what all of us are doing. Okay? Like, let's be honest. All of us have some internal dialogue going on. They have just sort of lost the filter to keep it internal, and they've got it happening external. So what's Marie said? Marie said, I did hers too at one point, and when she said that, it was like, oh my goodness, we would never say that to someone else. No, you wouldn't. Exactly. That internal voice, the stuff you're saying to yourself, monitor it, because once you know, then you can catch it, then you can switch it. You know what I mean? Yeah. This whole thing with people in San Francisco, though, it was interesting, right? These street people just talking to themselves, and it's like, it's really actually not dangerous. Like, we're all doing it. they're just doing it out loud. And let's see. I want to read this to you. I kind of highlighted this whole chapter. For those of you that want to be with me, I'm on page 8, the whole chapter, the whole paragraph. If you spend some time observing this mental voice, the first thing you will notice is that it never shuts up. Like, it is a chatterbox. When left to its own, it just talks. Imagine if you were someone walking around constantly talking to himself. You'd think he was strange, and you'd wonder if he's who's talking and he's who's listening, he obviously knows what's going to be said before he says it. So what is the point? I read that and I literally just started laughing, like, well, I've never considered it that way. Never considered it that way. And he says the same is true for the voice inside of your head. Why is it talking? It's you who's talking, and it is you who is listening. And when the voice argues with itself, who is it arguing with? Right? Like, we're all nuts. Okay? Who could possibly win? He says it starts to get very, very, very confusing when you actually zoom out and start to ask these questions. Fair? It totally does. And what about when you're trying to fall asleep? Like, put a 2 in the chat if your voice is nonstop at night. This is, I think, why a lot of people deal with insomnia and inability to fall asleep at night. It's like the chattering just goes. Thinking through what you did that day, what you forgot to do, what you need to do tomorrow. Oh my God, did I say that wrong? Did I upset that person? And the mind just goes. If that is you, have you ever told yourself to be quiet? All right? And it's so funny because it's the voice telling the voice to be quiet. It's nuts. It is literally nuts. All right, some of you are with me over here on Instagram. Yeah, so good luck with that. Good luck with that. He says the best way to free yourself from this incessant chatter is just to step back and to view it objectively. Literally just notice it. Like, I do this now on like calls for business. Like, I am in the call, people are talking, I'm talking, I'm participating in it, and my voice is over here, it's like in my head, just going da 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 da. And it can be so distracting, but when you start to learn that, like, you don't have to listen to it, that it's not you, that, you know, it's not always useful or correct, you can start to kind of leave it over here rather than the chatter being here and like distracting you even from paying attention to the conversation. You can choose to look over here, and the chatter, it keeps going, but you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to. Juliet says, yes, I tell it to shut up. I need to go to sleep now. It doesn't always work. Do a yoga nidra. That'll help you sleep. He says, stop feeling that one thing it says is you and the other thing is not you. If you're hearing it talk, it's obviously not you. You are the one who hears the voice. Therefore, it can't be you. Right? It's like someone I love this example. He just made it so obvious. He said, look, if I put a flower pot in front of you, and I put a photograph in front of you, and I put a book in front of you, and I said to you, which one of these things is you? You'd be like, none of them. Maybe I'm drawn to the book, or I like the flower pot, or whatever, or that's a nice photo, but like, they're not you, right? It's an object. And you are the observer. Like, the observer cannot be the thing it's observing. It just can't, right? There is a inherent difference there. Subject, object. And he says that's the same, right? What if I exchanged the flower pot, the photograph, and the book for happiness, judgmental, and angry? Which one of those are you? You might say, oh, I'm happy because that feels good and I like that. But no, like, happiness, being judgmental, and anger flows through you. They're not you. None of them are you. Absolutely none of them are you. But we get so identified and attached and connected with it, right? It's kind of wild. Oh, Juliet, your voice listens to you. Well, that's nice. When you tell yourself to be quiet, it listens. That's good. I guess that is a step. That is a step. So does that help? Like, high five me, put a 5 in the chat if you're with me. I thought that example so beautifully illustrated, like, look, I can't be this thing because I'm looking at this thing. Like, you can't be the thoughts because you're observing the thoughts. It's impossible. Like, you were there before the thought came. You're there during it, but you're also there after it's gone. So, like, you're not it. Make sense? Okay, I'm getting high fives. Yes, yes, yes. Karen says, yes, Yoga Nidra works wonders before I go to sleep. For me too. I just listened to one last night. And, you know, I didn't hear the end of it because I was out. So, yes. Oh, nice. Amanda gave me a 5, like an actual high five. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. Does anyone know somebody who is finding themselves? Anyone know someone who's finding themselves? I think this is something like, I don't know, I guess probably in your 20s. Maybe you have like a niece or a nephew or a child or a grandchild or maybe a friend. I don't think we have too many young people on here. But also at older ages, like I hear people all the time, I'm finding myself. I'm finding myself. I'm finding myself. Well, I had a teacher, Yogi Amar Desai. I'll never forget. Tina says, I'm finding myself. He said, people spend a lifetime going out into the world searching for themselves. And I think Mickey puts it here, right? People go through so many changes in the name of trying to find myself. They want to discover which of these voices, which of these aspects of their personality is who they really are. And Mickey says right here, the answer is none of them. And I'll never forget Gurudev, Amar Desai, sitting there and saying, people spend their whole life going places of pilgrimage. They go out, they go all over. And all that they needed to do was actually turn around. Because it's not out there, it's in here. The truth of who you truly are cannot be found out in that world with the different aspects of your personality and, oh, the voice says do this today, do that today, I like this, I don't like that. None of that is actually you. You are the one witness to it all. And like absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible when you appreciate that. He says you got to watch it objectively. So it's like sitting down at night and I love this. He says, watch objectively because much of what the voice is saying is completely meaningless. All right? Okay. I highlighted this because this one also made me laugh out loud. Did any of you also laugh out loud at this? Like, I don't know. Mickey, like, I love the way he articulates things. He literally just makes me giggle. Because he's like, okay. So he says, much of what we talk about, what the voice is saying is like completely meaningless. He says, the truth is that most of life is going to unfold in accordance to forces far outside of ourselves, far out of our control, regardless of what your mind has to say about it. He says, but your mind will do things like sit down and contemplate. Now, this isn't actually what your mind does, but this was what made me laugh. It's like sitting down at night and deciding whether you want the sun to come up in the morning. Like, well, let's really think about this. Should this happen? Should it not happen? Well, you know what? The nocturnal animals, maybe they need a little bit more darkness. And you know what? People should sleep a little bit later so the sun should come up later. Like, it's just BS. It doesn't matter. You can talk about it, but you're not going to actually create any change in the world, right? The sun is coming up, okay? And it's going to come up when nature deems it's ready to come up. Got it? Nothing to do with you, okay? I cracked up at that because I thought, wow, how many conversations have I had in my head? Oh, Facebook should do this differently. Oh, it's so annoying that I can't do this. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, this company this. Oh, this person that. Oh, what about this? Like, just knock it off. Knock it off because it's not going to get you anywhere and it's a waste. It's a waste. And what I teach Austin, we were just talking about this in Inner Management Mastery yesterday, is that you only have so much life force. Analogy. Hang on. I was going through, I found this little purse, side note here, and it has all this money from like $1 pieces. And anyway, so I have this little bowl, but I think that this is like the perfect analogy. So You only have so much money to spend. There's only so much life force energy in you. All right? And the life force that digests your food, like that's money going towards your food. And if you saw my stories today, I put a challenge out there and I gave it to my mastery students yesterday. Chew your food twice as long. A couple things will happen. One, it'll make you be more present. But number two, you're taking care of a lot of what your digestive fire has to do. If you don't break it down in your mouth, then your life force energy has to break it down. And you're going to be spending more of your money, right? More of your energy on that. So you've got less for other things. But what happens is that same energy that's digesting your food, beating your heart, breathing, healing your body, it's the same energy that the mind uses. And what happens in most of us is the mind hijacks it. And all the money gets spent up in our minds. Worrying about this. Did I say that properly? You know, what am I going to do tomorrow? I can't believe that this is happening. This isn't fair. Is the sun going to rise at the time I want it to, right? All this BS that your mind is doing, all the stuff, the chatter that Mickey's talking about. Now I got money all over my book. Hang on. didn't think that part through. But are you with me? Like, is this making sense? Like, there's only so much money to spend. And so your brain, your mind, your thoughts, this inner roommate, as Mickey calls it, is spending your money. And it's spending the money, and that money now cannot be used in your health. And you will find over time that if you are constantly worrying, anxious, etc., your body starts to suffer. Am I right or am I right? Okay? You will notice this. I love that analogy. It's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. I quit chewing gum a decade ago because it seemed like a waste of energy. Lou, I love you. Yeah, it is. Knock it off. So think about where you're spending your life force. And if you scream at someone, you're drained after, aren't you? Because you just spent all your money. You threw the purse out your mouth. And so you're literally hemorrhaging your life force. Okay? You're hemorrhaging it. It is going everywhere. The anger, the crying, all the stuff. Like, you have a good cry and you're exhausted. Like, your body is physically drained. Why? Because your life force just went out. Okay? Now, sometimes it's okay. You need to express emotion, right? Let's not, like, ignore that part of things. But for what I'm trying to explain here is like, hey, stop spending your money on stupid questions like, is the sun going to rise in the morning? Do I want it to? Like, stop worrying and talking and thinking about the things that you have no control over, okay? Spend your money in a smarter way. Please. Please, please, please. Okay, people are loving this. You like it. It's making sense. Good. Good, good, good. So spend your money wisely. Chew your food more maybe this week. See what it does for you. It's going to make you more present and less life force into your digestion. So it's going to be freed up for more. That's the energy, right, that gives you creativity. It's the energy that allows for your intuition, right, to come through stronger, okay? I'd rather spend my money on that, personally, right? That's what I want. Okay, so then he says, eventually you will see that the real cause of problems is not life itself. It's the commotion of the mind that the commotion that the mind makes about life that really causes your problems. That's the truth of it all, okay? That's the truth of it all, is that your mind and what it has to say about everything and its opinions about how things should be or shouldn't be or ought to be or whatever, this was fair, this wasn't fair, all of that is what makes the problem in life. Like, life is just happening, but you have this certain opinion about it that is causing you to have problems with the way life's unfolding. And that's why I launched Inner Management Mastery, to teach you guys how to go beyond the mind, right? And navigate life in a better way. So anyway, but that kind of begs the question then, why in the heck do we have the voice? Right? Because I don't think there's anything by mistake. I'm sure it's by design. So if this voice is making us miserable, what is its actual purpose? Like, why is it here? What is it supposed to be doing? How is it meant to be beneficial? Right? Anyone wanting to know that? Mickey basically pointed out two things. Okay? He says, number one is that in some cases, the mental voice talks for the same reason that the tea kettle whistles. Put a 1 in the chat if you've ever just had to vent. You just needed to vent. You just had to let it out. Like the teapot that, like, it's boiling, 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 and then just whoop. It just has to go. Okay? It just has to go. I know people that are like, they just kind of rant for a minute and then like, okay, I'm better now. I just had a vent. Like I just had a vent. Gail knows. Angela knows. Hey, Angela. Stacy knows. Yeah. Okay. There you all are. I think there's a little bit of a time delay. So now y'all are with me. Yeah. So he says that's why in some cases we have that mental voice. It literally like there's this buildup of nervousness, of fearfulness, of desire-based things, these energies inside of us that get extremely active. And then all of a sudden, right, it needs to just let itself out. And so the voice talks because you're not okay. And the talking eases the pressure. Make sense? Lou says it was probably a mistake though. Yeah, you probably don't want to vent that much. People don't need that. learn to manage it, right? I now laugh at what my voice has to say. Sometimes it's raging and I'm like, oh my, shut up. Right? Like, it's going. And I'm like, really? Okay, fine. But interesting, like that's why it's there. So it can be helpful to manage all the chaos of the emotions that are inside of us. The voice helps us make sense of it. That's number one. Number two, I thought this was like, I had to read it a couple times. I was like, really? But number two is that why are there balloons coming off on Instagram? That was weird. Okay, sorry, totally distracted. Balloons were just all around me on Instagram. Did one of you do that? I don't know what happened. But number two is it's actually narrating your world, okay? And that narration makes you feel more comfortable with the world around you. This had never dawned on me, but it makes it make a whole lot of sense why that voice talks. Because just look around you right now, like look in your room. What do you see? In an instant, I see every plant in my room. I see every plant outside. I see everything that's in here. But then my mind starts to talk about certain pieces of it. It describes certain aspects of it. But the truth is, your eyes, you absorb everything. Like you don't need to be told what you're seeing, right? Walking down the street and you're cold, right? And the voice says, oh, I'm cold. Like you already knew you were cold. It didn't say anything helpful, right? It's just stating the obvious. It's narrating life. And this is so important. He says, okay, it's like backseat driving. It actually makes you feel as though things are more under your control when you talk about it. A tree is no longer a tree in the world that has nothing to do with you. It's a tree that you saw, you labeled, and you judged. All right? When you end up experiencing the world this way, you make it make sense. And it makes sense through your lens, interestingly. And I thought this was interesting. He said, what you end up experiencing is really a personal presentation of the world according to you. I think, quite frankly, this is what's wrong with society today. Or the challenge, not what's wrong, but like the challenge that we're having. And society always really, because this is a human problem. But he says, listen to this. It's a personal presentation of the world according to you, rather than the stark, unfiltered experience of what really is happening out there. It's this mental manipulation of the outer experience that allows you to buffer reality as it comes in. This is why the same story can unfold, and one news organization will take a certain slant on it, and another news organization will take a different slant on it, because they're wanting it to make sense to the narrative in their own head about how they perceive the world to be. And then they feel better about what's unfolding in the world because, oh, this is just another example of this, right? And so they see it through that lens. Like this happens, sorry to say it, but it happens through the lens of race. Some people just see everything through that lens. And sometimes I'm like, time out. It has nothing to do with that. It's just unfolding. It's not because of the color of your skin. It just is the way that it is. All right? Now, sometimes it can be, but sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Right? It's just like this is the lens that we're seeing through, okay? And that our mind is trying to make sense of the world through. Super interesting. It's your past, right? Your past causes you to interpret things. Guru Dev calls it your memory graveyard of the past. It's that memory graveyard that is causing you to look at current reality in a certain way and making certain judgments about it. Like your voice automatically is doing it. And you gotta catch it. Okay? Amanda says, oh my gosh, I was just talking about eyewitness testimony not being valid because of perception. Yeah, exactly. Because everyone's viewing it through a certain lens. Like maybe they're angry. And so they observe a situation and they think, oh, it was an aggressive driver. And another person is tired and they observe it and they say, oh, that driver was just probably sleepy and just like, veered off. It's this lens of what your own head is making sense of. Wild. It is wild. That's why I just have compassion for people, because I'm like, I have no idea what their voice is saying to them and what they've been through and how they're looking at this situation. Like, I don't know, and I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to love them. Like, that's what you got to do. Marie wrote something over here, but at the very beginning of your life, as a baby, you were taught what it is, and that is where the labeling comes from at first. Then it gets molded and shaped by other things and people. Then we have to filter it, right? Yes. So we are taught by our parents, usually, and society, what's right, what's not right, what's proper, what's not proper, how to participate in this world, in a way that will make it flow for everyone. And some of that programming is a little jankety. Right? A lot of programming for people around money, that gets programmed in by their family. Oh, money doesn't grow on trees, right? Like, or other people it just spends like crazy and it's constantly flowing and they don't manage it well. Like, all of this gets baked into us when we're little, and then we have to, as we grow up, figure out what's serving us and what's not serving us. And that's the beauty to me of life, because it's ultimately the playground where we get triggered and we have the inner voice going off and we go, wait, why is it going off like that? Is that serving me? Is that not serving me? It's called internal karma. And this, those of you that have been through mastery, there's a lot of you on here that I'm seeing, like this, what we talked about there, and internal karma is it. Oops, I had an alarm go off. Oh, it's because I'm talking too much and we're past 12:30. Okay. So, all right. He says, true personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. And this is what we're doing here. All right. Be aware that you are watching the voice talk is to stand on the threshold of a fantastic inner journey. All right. I love that. We're gonna stop here, and thankfully that was the end of the chapter. So it usually takes us about a half hour. Let's look. I think that his chapters probably pretty well will be able to take us through. Oh no, that's a short chapter. Uh-oh. I should have looked at that before. Let me look. I'll put it in the Telegram chat. We'll at least read through chapter 2, maybe chapter 3. It might be too long. Catch me in Telegram and I'll tell you. But definitely at least read chapter 2 and we'll see how much of 3 we get into. I got to look at that. But I have a call I'm supposed to be on, so I got to jump. All right. Lots of love, you guys. I really appreciate you all being here. We've had tons of you on Facebook, on Instagram. If you got value from this, please share it. Share it to your wall. Share it to a group you're in. Tag a friend that could use this conversation and it could be beneficial for them. Let them know they can join book club with us live every single Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, or they can catch the replay whenever it works for them. So lots of love. Great start to the week. I'm glad to be back with you guys. I missed you. It was like there was a void on Mondays when we didn't have book club. So good to be back. And I'll talk to you all soon.